Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Healing Connections podcast. I'm your host, Emmy Vadnais, and today we are talking about giving a voice to animals with Kathy Van Gilder, who is an animal communicator who has served as a conduit between people and their pets for 15 years. Kathy helps deepen people's understanding and connection with their pets, solves behavioral issues, addresses health concerns, and reconnects people with deceased pets through one-on-one personal sessions and classes. She is also the author of For the Love of Animals, The Untold Thoughts of Our Pets, a book that shares stories and photographs of some of the animals she has communicated with. And she is also a pet photographer. Welcome, Kathy. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Emmy, for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. Well, I just love what you've been doing for so long, and I thought it would be great to share with people about your gifts and how you're able to communicate with animals. And if we could just maybe take a moment and, maybe talk about what an animal communicator is and how you got interested in this very unique profession.
Yeah, I would be happy to answer that. So, an animal communicator is really someone who understands the language of animals. And what I mean by that is animals communicate primarily telepathically and primarily through thought and through images, but also through feeling. And so it's someone who's able to connect with all of those things with the animal and then be able to process that, take it into their intuitive mind, and then bring it over to the logical mind and translate it into what they're thinking. And animal communicators are able to kind of go back and forth. So not only are they able to be able to get information from animals, they're able to get information to animals as well. So it works both ways. So animals really do prefer to communicate telepathically, as I said, and really through thought, and that is words. And so it primarily comes through the brain as thought or words, and then the images come through as just that, as pictures. And then the feeling is a feeling in the body. And so it's mainly those three things.
Hmm. Nice. So it sounds like you're communicating, like you said, telepathically, and the animals like to communicate that way, or psychically, or intuitively, would you say?
Very much so. Yeah, they communicate intuitively, and it really is something that we all, when we're born, we all have that intuitive mind that's in very very much intact. And as we get older, we just learn to not use it, and so that's why a lot of people have difficulty communicating with animals. But most people can learn how to do that in certain ways.
Hmm. And what led you to want to become an animal communicator, or what was that path or journey like for you?
Well, I've always been able to communicate with animals, even as a child, and it was very effortless. When I was a kid, just sort of happened, and I assumed everyone was just like me. I didn't realize that it was something different or unique. And then after getting, older and getting to more adolescent youth time, I learned that that wasn't necessarily appropriate. And I'm putting that in quotes, of course, from my family and others around me, that that wasn't something that, we necessarily need to be doing. And it wasn't something we would talk about or anything. And so I pretty much shut down my intuition and shut down the animal communication gifts at the same time, and really didn't reopen that until a little over 20 years ago, when I began really exploring spirituality in myself, and realized that not only do I have an intuitive mind, but I also am able to connect really well with animals. In between that time, I obviously was still very connected with animals and very much adored them, but just this other side was hidden and kind of locked down, if you will. And so once I realized that and started on this journey, it became very clear, a clear calling and a clear pull from my heart and my soul, that this is something that I needed to do to help other human beings and the animals as well. So it's kind of a funny story, but I practiced on my own animals. I practiced on my neighbors' animals. I practiced with my friends' animals, and just animals I didn't know that I would just see out and about, just to kind of see what I would get and how it worked, and experimented and explored a little bit more. And so that's the story, really, and then expanded from there.
And didn't you also spend a time working as an intuitive with humans?
I did. Yes, I did. That was right. That was first before I actually discovered and got the pull to communicate with animals. My intuition opened. I became really aware and open spiritually. And yes, I had a business actually with a colleague that we had called Heart Sense, and we did that. We did just that. We worked with humans to help them with issues and problems and things in their lives.
So that's a transferable skill, would you say, working with humans to working with animals? I mean, it's not exactly the same, but it's similar concepts or practices.
Yeah, it really is. There are some differences, but definitely. But just knowing myself and knowing how I have this just innate connection with animals already, and I just, it was more of a calling, and what I could say, it was my heart is happier and my soul is happier communicating with animals. And it's not that I'm not helping people, and as I think we'll talk later today, you'll find out that definitely animals help their humans all the time, and animal communicators help the humans through the animals. So it's just a little different approach, and I so enjoy being that conduit for the animals, be their voice.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. And that you also then are helping the relationship with the animals and their humans.
I am, right, deepening their understanding and connection. And people always have good intentions and they adore their animals, but sometimes the lack of understanding of what's really happening can get in the way of the strong connection. And that's really what I do, is help that bond and help the understanding grow. And it's very, very often that an animal, during, if I've done a one-on-one session with them, with their human, and they've just been waiting to get this message or waiting for the human to understand them better or whatever it might be. And what happens is they'll finally kind of get that off their chest, so to speak, and how they relax energetically, and then they typically go to sleep. They're so relieved. I mean, it's wonderful to see how much they adore their humans and how deep that love is, and how much they want them to know.
Beautiful. So, what are some of the top three reasons that people seek you out to assist with animal communication?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. That's a good question. So, one of the reasons is to really just connect and understand their animal better. Some people just want to do it because they're a really strong advocate for animals and they're an animal lover and they want to understand their pet and they want to know, do they have something they want to say to me? Do I not even know what they're trying to say? And so sometimes it's just general, and those can be really wonderful sessions. A lot of times it's behavioral issues that'll prompt that. So whether it be, having accidents on the floor inside could be a big one because it's frustrating for the human to have that happen. It can be, behavioral such as aggression or anxiety, many different things like that. And another a reason that often people contact me is they're not sure about end of life with their pet, if their pet's aging, and they're feeling they can feel the energy, they know they're not doing well, and it's so hard for us humans to let go and to know, what's the best for the pet. And so oftentimes I'll just communicate from the pet's perspective what they want and what they need, and are they ready to leave? Are they ready to, do they need to stay a little bit longer? And then also what goes along with that is deceased pets. When pets pass, I do work a lot of times with people who, when that happens, they want to reconnect with their animal in heaven and make sure they're okay, and make sure they did everything right, and those sorts of things.
And you recently did that for my husband and I with our dog Toby.
I did. Dear Toby, yes. And yeah. And so then, we get to reconnect up with him in heaven and make sure he's okay and does your heart so much good and find out anything that he wants you to know about. So often humans will have guilt about that. And so, a lot of times animals will have a message about that to their humans.
Yeah, you were very helpful and very healing, in particular for my husband, who Toby was his buddy, his best friend, and they had a relationship for almost 17 years, and that really helped him to feel that presence. Where I also work quite intuitively, and so I feel like I was able to connect with him quite a bit, and certainly my husband had a strong bond with him. But when we go through grief, as you know, and all these strong emotions, it sometimes is difficult to connect with those loved ones. And so thank you for helping us with reconnecting with Toby. That was beautiful.
Oh my goodness, it was my pleasure. And you know, you hit that right on right on the head there. It is difficult when we have such that emotional bond, and we just can't tell. We can't tell what to do. We can't tell if we're doing the right thing. And so it can really help to have an outside person come in and clarify that and to give some reassurance because like I said, most people want to do the right thing. They want to do exactly what their animal wants. It's just hard for them to hear and to know.
Yeah, and I just had my dad just lost his dog this weekend, so I think I might be gifting him a session with you, Kathy. So
So I would
yeah, a beautiful, beautiful greyhound who he had a deep bond with. So yeah.
what a sensitive dog too, and wonderful dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sage, beautiful dog. So, well,
oh.
we already gave a couple little mini examples there, but could you share a story about how you helped an animal or a human or both with animal communication?
Yeah. And this will be good. This will help people understand it a little bit better. Yeah. So I can think of a couple stories off the top of my head. One was a few years ago. And there's so many, so I'm trying to think of the one that would really help explain this
Yeah,
better.
whatever pops out in your
Yeah,
mind or that
right.
you think would be great for people to hear.
Yeah. So yeah, one is a few years ago, I was contacted by a woman who had a dog named Stevie. Stevie was a girl, and she was a corgi, and she was new to them. She got her from a breeder, actually, and had been, basically, it wasn't a puppy mill, but it was a breeder. And so she was living the breeder life. And so came with not a lot of personality and not a lot of understanding about kind of, how to be a dog and how do you relate to humans and all of that. And they adored her and her husband. And they had another dog as well, Nika. And so she called me specifically because she just wasn't sure she could keep her. And this is so common for people because she was, relieving herself on the floor every evening and sometimes right in front of them.
Hmm.
And she was so frustrated. She adored this dog, but she said, Kathy, I just can't keep doing this. I don't, we've tried to let her out multiple times. We just don't know what's happening. And what I've learned over the years, and this is true in this situation as well, is that animals who are doing that sort of thing, they just don't know any other way to communicate. So they're trying to get a message through. And that's one of the strongest ways that they can get the message through because you can't really ignore that. It's right in your home and it's frustrating and in your face. And they don't mean to be upsetting to you. They just want to try to get the message. So anyway, when I connected with Stevie, what I found out was that she was really angry. And when I asked her why, she told me that she was quite upset that she was being fed second and not first from the other dog, and that she didn't like her food at all. And so again, she wasn't being ungrateful. Sometimes people take it that way. Oh my gosh, I've given you a home, and why are you being, that wasn't it at all. She just really
You
disliked the
just paw
food.
your dish versus relieving
Right,
yourself on the
right.
floor.
And look up, and don't you understand? Right, right. So she was quite upset about that. And because she had come from a breeder where she never knew when she was going to be fed, they got fed in shifts, is what she told me. And she just didn't know. And so it was time for her to be, really respected and really admired and really loved. And so she really wanted to be fed first and fed food that she liked. And it sounds trivial and silly. Maybe it doesn't to me, but maybe to some people, but it was really, really important for her. So,
Well, we all have our own unique needs, right? And we need to be able to express our needs, and hopefully they can be addressed if it
right,
works for the other party.
exactly. And I mean, you bring up a really good point. And my second story here, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but what's so happens so often with our pets and what's going on with them, it be a behavioral issue, a health issue, whatever it might be, they're really trying to show us not only what they need, but also what their human needs. So knowing a little bit about the human mom in this situation, um, she really needed to take better care of herself and really kind of claim what she liked and what she didn't like. And so it's a mirror, if you can kind of see that. It can go both ways. And so she really did need those things. Stevie did, but also her human mom needed to see that. Stand up for yourself. What that kind of thing. So the good news is that she stopped. It all stopped, and she was quite a happy girl after that.
Mm, that's a remarkable story.
Yeah, so that's very common, but I wanted to share with you just because it happens a lot. The other story is a little more recent, and I just in the last couple months, and it's a couple who contacted me who had a foster dog, and this sweet foster dog had been through a lot and was quite a sensitive dog from what I picked up, and we'll call him Izzy, and Izzy was quite afraid had a really good bond with the foster mom, but was very afraid of the foster dad.
Mm.
And they just didn't know why. He would shake, he would growl a little bit deeply if he got close, just really frightened of him. And so I didn't know when I went into the situation, is it that he's been abused by men? I mean, because that happens too. But in this particular situation, what Izzy told me was quite profound. And it wasn't that the human dad was doing anything wrong or bad. It was just quite a teachable and learning moment for both of them, I think. And basically what he told me was he was uncomfortable with his energy. He was uncomfortable with his human dad's energy. The human dad's energy was a little bit harsh and a little bit gruff and not mean. He was very kind to him, but that's just what he projected out regularly. And Izzy, being so sensitive, really disliked that, and it scared him so much. So, what he asked Izzy is that if his human dad could connect better with his heart, and really open his heart a little bit more when he connected with him. So we talked through that a little bit, and we came up with a plan of maybe doing some breathing and visualizing and meditation. Nothing too extravagant or extreme, but just some beginner kinds of things to really help him connect better with his heart. And it worked beautifully, actually, because I told him some things to really try and work on, and within a couple days he had done the exercises, and Izzy came up to him all on his own, licked his hand, allowed him to pet him, and the relationship shifted. And so, I mean, I think it's wonderful that this human dad was open to being able to, to wanting to do that. I think he wanted this connection so badly with this dog and was feeling sad that, oh my gosh, this dog is so scared of me. Why is that? And I think that's incredible. So not only, and here we go again with helping both animal and human, which is, that not only did Izzy get help because then he could connect better because he was so sensitive to the human, but the human dad got to learn how to live in his heart, how to be in his heart, and he got that as a teaching moment from what a beautiful gift from Izzy. So that I find that almost 100% of the time when I talk with animals, it goes both ways, and it's such a gift.
Hmm. So everybody's helped, and how beautiful that this person was seeking out help. And sometimes people seek out help and they get advice and they don't always follow through with what the suggestion is. So beautiful work that the person was inspired to actually follow your suggestions. And furthermore, it made a difference in their relationship. So
It was just a wonderful thing. I mean, again, I agree. It was so wonderful that he wanted to take that action and help. Really, really great.
so can you share what happens in an animal communication session? What would somebody expect if they were to work with you or some other animal communicator?
Sure. It's typically a three-way communication connection between me and the pet and the human. Sometimes there's more than one human there. Um, but, I start off by connecting with the animal and really connecting with their heart and our soul. So our hearts and our souls are connected. And then what we do is I allow the animal to say something if they have something to say right off the bat, because I want to be able to be respectful to them and allow that. Because usually the human will have an agenda, but sometimes that animal will need to be heard first. So then we go into that, and then we start talking about, what the human's concern is. And so then I relay the concern to the animal, and the animal tells me, what's going on, and from their perspective, what they see is happening or what they need or, what they feel. And then we just go back and forth. And sometimes, if it's a behavioral issue, we come up with a little plan. Sometimes it's enough just to have a conversation so that the human and animal are on the same page. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes it starts to change even when they make the appointment, which is really interesting. Even
Yeah.
when we talk.
Like the intention is set or something, maybe, would you
Right,
say?
the
Yeah.
animals know. Oh, finally, I'm going to be heard. Oh my goodness. Yeah, they're very excited. So the animals are very excited to be talking typically because, they want to be heard and they want to have their thoughts and their feelings respected and understood. So it's really important. So it's basically, like I said, a three-way conversation, and I get, as we talked about earlier, the thoughts, the images, the feelings. And animals, what I find is some have different preferences on how they communicate. Some really don't say much. I don't get a lot of thoughts. Some, it's mostly just images. Some it's a lot of feeling. Some it's a lot of thought. Some are very, very chatty and they want to get all that through. So it just kind of depends on what the animal has to say and how they like to communicate.
And when you work with your clients, do you meet on the phone, like something like online video, or in person when it's okay to do so?
Yeah, so typically yeah, so previously I was doing phone, mostly phone. Once in a while, I'll go out and do in person. But these days, Zoom, and Zoom is working very well, video Zoom. And so sometimes the animal's even there, which is quite nice. But so we can all see each other. Um, I used to, when I first started to do animal communication, I did in-person sessions, and I loved it. I loved being able to see the animal and see all that. But what I found was that they were so distracted by greeting or, getting to know me or whatever. So it took, sometimes with an animal who was quite energetic and sensitive, it would take 30 minutes for them to just calm down so we could actually connect and
Yeah,
talk.
they're like, we're so excited you're here, Kathy.
Right, exactly. So I realized, no, that's probably not the best thing. Now I still do that from time to time, but most often it's through Zoom these days.
Nice. And I also just want to bring attention for those who are actually viewing this, although some people might just be listening, but there's a beautiful photograph behind you. Could you share who that is and anything you want to share about that? Because it's just so beautiful and striking.
Well, thank you. Yeah, as Emmy said, I am a pet photographer as well, and I really enjoy that, and it goes really well for me. The animals tend to be pretty cooperative, not perfect, of course, but pretty cooperative. So this photo back here is of my dog Holly, who I just adore. She's an 8-year-old Oh, husky mix. She's got some other things in her too, but and she's actually in the room right now with me. She likes to help me when I'm doing things like this, so she's here. But yeah, that's Holly, and she is my teacher and my helper, and has come in basically to help me with all this. She's an excellent communicator, both vocally and also intuitively. She is, and I'm sure that's why she's with me. Is you know, we're a good match. We're a good pair.
Yeah, you look like a great team. For those who are interested, could you share how does Holly help you?
Yeah, so it's not unlike many people have with their pets, and they may just not be aware. So our animals are always helping us, particularly our domestic animals, our pets. That's mostly what we're talking about today. And they're helping us through lots of different ways. So they're, you know, they're a protector for one. And I mean, I know you understand that having Chihuahuas, they're very good at protecting. They're so good at that. Some are better than others, right? And they are our unconditional love um, folks or animals. So they love to show us and teach us and constantly are giving us unconditional love. And it's such an amazing teaching moment, really, for them to give to us. And some of us realize that, and some of us don't. And then they're also really good at teaching by showing us things. So sometimes they're mirrors, for example, and I know I'm getting off the topic here, but
Oh, wherever you want to go, it's
it
all relevant.
hasn't happened with Holly, but it has happened with another animal of ours, our last dog, Comet. Um, so what happened with Comet, and this is very common. So Comet tore his ACL, and this was right. He was about 7 when we adopted him, and when we got him, his knee was already a little bit, it wasn't in great shape. And one day he just ran him on the corner, and it tore, and his knee went up, and I knew exactly what happened, and I felt horrible. But and the good news is he healed, and we had surgery and all that. And actually, he went on to live a really long life and didn't tear his other one, which is so common for them. But really, what happens in a situation like that, and so many others with animals, is they're a mirror. So what was he doing? He tore his knee because he was showing, and in this case, I hope my husband doesn't mind, but it was about my husband and
Mm.
some old wound that he really needed to address, some part of him that was feeling hurt. And so in that situation, Comet got hurt. So when a dog gets hurt, oftentimes they're mirroring back to you some hurt that maybe you need to let go of or that you need to heal. Now it's a little bit deep, I know, but it's so common, so incredibly common. Some people might say it's a little self-sacrifice, and they actually do tend to do some of that. They'll do a little self-sacrifice just to show us, and that's really how much they love us. They love us so much. But they'll also do other things, not so extreme. So they'll show us, in the situation when I talked about the dog needing the different food, and how that was showing that human mom about how she really needed to declare what she liked and what was important to her and those things, so they can mirror back that. I've seen situations where dogs will come in and they'll have the very same wound that their human does. So maybe they've been hurt by men, and they can't trust men. And then guess what? They take in this dog, and it's the same exact wound. And the dog is really for them. They're going to help the dog, and then they'll help themselves in the same time. And I see it over and over and over again, and it's so amazing and really miraculous, I think. So those are situations, and Holly's doing the same thing to me all the time, mirroring, showing me things, um, reminding me to stay in my heart, reminding me to stay grounded, reminding me to stay balanced. She loves to play. Anytime your dog, your cat, whoever, any animal you have in your life, and they're showing expression, they want to play, they're showing you, they want to play, they need it, but they're also showing you about that same thing. That, oh my gosh, maybe my heart needs to take a break here and play a little bit too.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, those are great examples. And symbolism, like you were talking about with the mirroring and how, if we all kind of slow down and just look around in our lives, animals or not, there's a lot of symbolism going on. But those are great examples of how we can understand and be connected with our pets. So you just mentioned several of these, but I wanted just to check in with you. Are there any other common themes that animals want us humans to know or understand?
You know, really, yeah, and I did mention most of these, but they want to know they one of the main things I think that they've taught me, and I'm always so surprised about, and it really it's just so surprising. It happens over and over and over again. I shouldn't be surprised because I've seen it so much, but how deeply, this is domestic pets of course still, but how deeply they love their humans, how incredibly deep, and how deep that love goes, and how they want the best for them. They want them to have, be happy, and make choices that are good for them. I can think of an example of a woman I helped a few years ago with her cat who who was deceased, and she wanted to reconnect. And the first thing the cat said was, "Well, you need a new job. I don't like your boss." And unfortunately, the human didn't quite understand. She said, "Well, she never met my boss. I don't know how she could even know." But the cat knew, and the cat, even from heaven, was trying to help her see, oh my goodness, choose work that you love. Don't, allow yourself to be, bossed around by this guy who's intimidating you, and what, I can't remember what he was doing, but all these things. So the love is so deep, and they understand so much more than we think that they do. They don't just understand what's around them because, again, they're telepathic communicators. So they can actually hear and know what's happening for us even when we're not around. They can just tune in. And if they want to, they will. And they'll know exactly what's happening. So in that case, the cat knew what was happening at work and could see it.
Mm. So we have mostly been talking about domestic animals, which is probably why most people would seek out an animal communicator. Have you ever worked with any large animals or any farm animals or horses or anything like that? Or does it tend to be more
I have. Yeah.
small pets?
Yeah, so mostly it's mostly smaller pets. But yeah, I've actually worked with plenty of horses too. And horses, it's a similar sort of thing. It's just they are larger, so their energy is larger. And the common theme that I have found with horses is they're so teaching their human about intuition and trusting themselves because they're riding them. And so it's all about the feeling and the being bonded and connected. And so they are such good teachers with helping that human really connect with their intuition, their confidence, really trusting themselves.
Mm. It makes me think about how relationships in general are so important for us as humans. And do you think most people would benefit from having an animal in their lives?
Uh, yeah, but that's me. I
Right.
do. I do. If if they're willing and want to take that on, of course, not everyone's wired that way, but
Mhm.
um, yeah, animals are amazing teachers. I already said this, and they give us unconditional love, and it's amazing what they can do. Yeah, it's sort of like you said, Emmy. It's sort of like having another relationship. Not only a human relationship, but now with an animal. And some people are lucky enough. I know you have been, and I have been, to have that really special relationship with those animals, where it can be almost as deep, or even deeper sometimes than a lot of the humans that we're close to.
Yeah, I know many people who find that feel that they have love or have the best or deepest relationship with their pet or animal. And I think part of that is, or maybe all of it, or a lot of it, is that unconditional love and acceptance that they give and bring. And also, I think what's unique, that they are not verbal the same way we are. like, being able to have that sound, that auditory sound. So they communicate in a different way that we need to maybe pay attention to in a little bit different ways than normally speaking, which you and I know, working with people and, being communicators ourselves in that regard, a lot of language actually happens. Most of it is not actually through the language. It's body language, energy, all those other things.
Yeah, exactly. And they love us unconditionally. They're not judging. And I think a lot of people, really appreciate that and like that. They, yeah, they're just really, and they're also really straight communicators. So it just comes right out. It's the truth. Whatever they say is the truth. The truth from their perspective.
Mm.
It's really refreshing.
Yeah, I can see why you love doing it. That pure, unconditional love, and you're able to connect in, dial in, very strongly and effortlessly. I know that having worked with you and supporting me in that regard, you're excellent at what you do, which is why I want to talk with you today. I just want to switch gears for just a moment, because I know this is sort of a hot topic and has been for a while. But the topic of, should a person be a vegetarian or not? Should they be vegan? Is it okay to eat animals and meat and things like that? And I was just curious. Certainly, I believe everybody has to come to that choice ultimately on their own. But you, as a professional animal communicator who's connected so deeply and profoundly to all of these animals over these years, I'm just curious what thoughts you might have on that.
Yeah, so I can tell you from the animal's perspective, and I think that might be the best way to answer the question, because I value their perspective on this. So, we were talking about animals and why they are here and how they help us. And, and I can elaborate on this a little bit later too, but they are the holders of unconditional love. So they don't have an ego. This is why they can love us unconditionally. They continue to love, no matter what happens to them. And so they hold that force field of unconditional love. So their vibration is very, very high and it's very clear for the most part. So that's really cool. But with that said, some animals know, and some animals know that some will be eaten, and they know it, and they know that's why they've come in, and they actually are okay with it, and they accept it. And I mean, it's astonishing. To me, it's astonishing. But one of the things that's really helped me that I've learned over the years is that their souls, they actually leave their body before they exit. So, if you sit, I know this is not about eating animals, but if you see an animal that's been hit, by a car on the road, know that their soul, they left before they suffered. They didn't feel it. And so it's the same with the others. It's same with the cows and the chickens and the pigs and all of that. And, what they really ask for, Emmy, is to have gratitude, to be grateful, to understand who they really are and why they're here, to understand that they're a force field of love, unconditional love, and that they accept whatever is. And so, that's the thing that we can give them. And so whether you choose to eat meat or not, that's, as you said, it's a personal choice. But they ask that you just be grateful, that you understand and you be grateful for them and you love them.
Well, that's very helpful and insightful. And that sounds similar to what I've seen as an intuitive, and having worked in hospitals and life and death situations, having lost patients and clients I've worked with, and understanding and working with people who've had severe injuries, and what their experiences were like at the moment of impact, that our energy or soul can actually leave the body, or out of body experiences is a term for that as well. And I don't know if you'd agree with me or not, Kathy, but I'll just go ahead and say that I encourage people who are caring for animals that we strive toward, whether you choose to have an animal help sustain you in this life physically, that we all are mindful of how we treat animals, whether they're in, however they're in our care, whether we are raising them at a farm or as pets in our homes, to bring that love and to decrease as much suffering as possible.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I am doing a series right now called Animal Talks. And I started this a couple months ago, and it's where I basically channel an animal group. And so I get to, learn, and everyone else on the call gets to learn right from them what their perspective is, what they want us to know, how they're feeling about things, why they're here, different things like that. So one of the animal talks that I've done was the farm animals. And it was exactly that, Emmy. It was what I heard from them was, we know we're going to be eaten and we're okay with that. But what we are not okay with is in some places we're not treated well. Mm-hmm. We are disrespected. We are seen as a thing, those sorts of things. And animals experience grief. They experience true, deep grief. And I can say from talking with them, the amount of grief was great from them. And I'm sorry to say that. It was, but, and at the same time, they know that there's a shift going on in the planet. They know that, they do understand that. And so again, they're okay with being eaten. They're okay with that. They're good with that. But it's how we treat them. Yeah.
Which also, again, like you have alluded to or outright said, really, is that they're a mirror for how we are, and for us to be more loving and compassionate as well.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Great. So and on that same note, is there anything that you feel animals might want to share with us? Because we are going through, huge population on the planet, and there's a lot going on with some people don't think this is happening, but there definitely seems to be climate change happening. And animals, right, like wild animals, and all of us, we're all, we think we're separate from we are animals ourselves, really, that we think we're separate from nature, but we are very much a part of it. Is there anything that these wise beings might like to share with us, or you think would like us to know about what's happening on the planet and what we can do, or just any messages that might help us?
Absolutely. So talking with them, and as I mentioned, these groups that I've been talking with every couple of weeks here, I'm learning a lot from them. And there's a common theme. There's a common theme that they're a little confused. They feel abandoned by humans, not their creator, but by humans. And they're, it's not great for them. It depends on the animal. It depends on who I'm talking to. Some are okay and some aren't. But what the common theme is, and what the common message I hear from them when we ask, what can we do? How can we help? How can we speed this up? Because like you said, Emmy, it's a mirror, right? And, this is all mirroring back. And really the common thing that I hear, and it's so simple, but yet so profound, I think. And it's really live in your hearts. I hear this all the time from them. Live in your hearts, expand your heart, live in balance, please. And they tell me, the land will grow, and it sounds, I mean, really, it's a magical thing. That's their message. Live in your hearts, find your heart, live in your heart, stay balanced. And that's their message.
What a beautiful message. Live in your heart. I think that could benefit all of us, and something that we hopefully can do daily.
Right. And I'll add that, they are very well aware of the beautiful animal sanctuaries that are around, and, all the wonderful organizations that are saving, different species, and, all those wonderful things that are going on. And they're very grateful for those, very grateful for all the humans helping. But what they say is basically to really get to that root, because that's so needed, those things, because it's happening now. But to really get to the root of what's happening and to really change it long term, it is about the heart, and it is about expanding that heart and living in your heart.
I Thank you for that message.
Mhm.
Very helpful and deeply insightful. Well, is there anything else you want to share about what has surprised you the most being an animal communicator? I know you mentioned about how deep and profound their love is. Anything else that you think would be, or anything else you think would be interesting for the people listening to hear?
You know, they really, as you know, they really, love us so deeply and unconditionally. But um, they, what I'm hearing is that they really would like to convey that um, they're teachers. They're teachers too. And I know I already said that, but teachers in such a way that if we stop and just pay attention to what's happening and what they're showing us, because you may not believe that you're communicating with your pet, but most people who are very connected already are. And maybe not in the same way that I'm doing it, but you're so bonded and connected. And so if there's a message that pops in or something that you just feel about your pet or something that you think they're trying to say, that's gentle and soft, not just something that you're coming up with your intellectual mind, but really that you're just feeling in your body, trust it, know it, and know that you already are communicating with them, and they are so happy when you listen.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I think a lot of humans feel that they are superior to, quote, animals. But through our discussion here, it sounds to me like these animals are much more wise and have a lot to teach us humans.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. It is. They are wise and simple in the way that is so profound. And yes, yeah, you got it.
Well, thank you so much, Kathy, for sharing all of these beautiful messages from these animals and through your heart and from you and from Holly. Thank you, Holly. Would you like to share how people can get in touch with you? And also, I know you're doing some classes. Not only do you help with relaying messages and communicating, but I believe you also help people learn how to communicate with their pets.
Right. I have not only the animal talks class I was talking about, the membership, but I have a pet connections class where I'm teaching people. That's a monthly class where I'm helping teach people how to be more sensitive to animals, how to connect with them, how to actually communicate with them, how to send some energy kind of clearing or healing. One of the things I didn't mention in our talk today is that they can really take on our own energy. So if we have some low vibration energy, meaning, sadness, grief, pain, whatever's happening, they can really absorb that. And so sometimes they need clearing. And so I teach how to do that. Yeah, so that's a once a month class. Again, it's called Pet Connections, and it's on my website, which is www.kathyvangilder.com. And let's see, in the sessions, like you mentioned, I do one-on-one sessions, both 30 minutes and 60-minute sessions. And I have a blog too on my website that I write, once a month. So that's also nice to visit. So thank you, Emmy. Thank you so much.
And you're a beautiful photographer of both humans and animals.
I do enjoy photography and in particular animals as well. It's just, I find that they bring that authenticity to the photography session, and they're pretty receptive to surprisingly photo direction. I found that not all, but many are very receptive. Sometimes it takes a little bit, but that's okay. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you for all of your work that you do and play with these animals and humans. And thank you for your time today, Kathy. And I hope many people get in touch with you.
Thank you so much, Emmy. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for caring about animals and really wanting to get their voices out there. They are grateful to you. Very, very grateful.
Live in the heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now. Until then, be well.